like a shadow. Fire burning through the dark. I go there by your side. It's not over. Hello, hello, hello. It is the Intentional Parenting Chat, and I am Dimma will be your host and the co-author of the ABC of Intentional Parenting, which is the parent's guide on how to love, lead, and influence their children with ease. Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and I guarantee you we're going to have a fantastic time discussing tonight. I trust you had a beautiful day. I had a beautiful day. I had an eventful day, and part of the highlights of my day is that the children started school today, and so it was fun getting them ready and sending them out to go represent the family and live out our family values in their school, even while reading and interacting with their peers. I'm sure if you live in Nigeria, your children also started school today. How was it for them starting to school today? And how was it waking up earlier than normal? I guess you will adjust with time. And so tonight, excuse me, tonight we're going to be discussing something. The last time on the show, we talked about how the use of threats in trying to elicit good behavior from our children may be counterproductive, because the children may get used to the fact that we always issue out threats and we don't carry them out. And so some parents would like to know, so I thought that when I issue threats, I'm going to get them scared and they would be of good behavior. But we found out that when we consistently issue threats and don't follow up with action, the children begin to see this pattern of inconsistency, and they may call us bluff, knowing that we are all talk and no action. So how can you get your child to behave even without issuing threats? One of the concepts I know that we can use that will work for us is to distinguish the behavior to desired and undesired behavior, and then map out the right behavior modification strategies that we can use to reinforce the behavior that we want. And so what is those behavior that we may want to reinforce or work with our children? Have you ever been to like a shopping mall with your child and be totally embarrassed because your child is running from one section to the other? Sometimes the child is asking, mommy, buy this, daddy, buy this, and it's making a hell of a noise and constituting nuisance in a public place, and you're like trying to bite your hand and like wishing, oh, let me just leave this girl. When we get home, I'll show her. Some of those places where our children exhibit undesirable behavior and we will want to correct them, we can try to use positive reinforcement. And what do I mean by positive reinforcement? Say in that example I gave about your child running about in the shopping mall from section to section, depending on the age of the child, you could try something like, oh, will you follow mommy and do the shopping for today? If you do that, mommy is going to do this and this for you, that and that for you. And it may not work the first time, but with time, when you use positive reinforcement, you are going to get your child you're going to be able to modify that behavior and get your child to begin to act rightly, begin to exhibit the desired behavior that you want. And so that's part of it. So use of positive reinforcement, where you promise the person something for being of good behavior, when you when you promise the person like a treat for being of good behavior. That could be one of the ways that you can eliminate undesirable behavior and get your child to begin to behave the way you want. And so I need to also draw a note of warning here that there should be a balance to it. As your child is growing, as you use positive reinforcement, e.g. the use of a bait or the use of a reward system, you don't want to make it a constant, so that your child begins to develop the entitlement mentality and think that it is only in exchange for a good that you're of good behavior. No, you may want to start with that, but as with time goes on, you want to reinforce your family values. You want to reinforce to your child, whereby the desired behavior that you want now becomes a way of life for your child. Because one thing I've noticed with parents is that if we overuse the system of positive reinforcement, or the system of giving your child, promising him something in exchange for good behavior, you may end up raising an adult who will have entitlement mentality and will always look forward to getting a reward for something. No, while it can work in the short run, with time you need to deploy more intelligent systems that will reinforce desired behavior. One other way that you can get your child to drop some undesired behavior instead of using threats is to paint a picture of a future that the child would want. You know, many of our children are creatives. Their minds, their imagination is superb, and they can travel even into the future. So if you want your child to be a good behavior, let's say, for example, the child is always distracted or running about when he's having his lesson, for example, and you know that your child is a child that has been dreaming of being a pilot, for example. So you paint a picture of a future of a pilot who is doing exploits, of a future of a pilot who is doing this and that. Once your child can connect with that picture, there is a connection to it mentally that could reinforce that behavior that you want your child to adopt. So painting a picture for your child of a future the child desires is a way to reinforce, desirable behavior. Another thing you need to know is that we need to praise our children. Yes, you might say, oh, why am I praising him? It's been naughty. I shouldn't praise a naughty child. No, when you're praising the child, you're also making deposits in the child's life. You're also helping the child grow emotionally. You're also teaching the child that you love him beyond the good, the behavior you want to elicit from him. One problem that I see, that parents make is tying their child to the behavior. You need to understand that your child is not the behavior. So you must be able to separate your child. Yes, your child can be naughty for Africa. Yes, your child can be so stubborn. But that is a phase. It's a behavior that you're trying to address, not the child. So it's like the adage that our people will say, you don't throw the baby with the bathing water. So being able to distinguish your child from the behavior is very important. And so when you do that, that is why you see the place of praise, why you need to praise your child even as the child is evolving from modifying that behavior to the desired behavior that you want. The next step we need to do when we're trying to modify undesirable behavior in our children is that we must learn to celebrate their progress. So one time I threw a poser at some parents, and I asked them, supposing your child is a known fights in school, part of the ways that he settles scores with his friends in school is to fight, and you get the report from the class teacher, and the report says that your child fights every day in school. He fights with one classmate every day, okay? And then you start this process of behavior modification with your child, and in the next 3 weeks, the report comes to you that he fought again. And then the teacher gives you the report and say, oh, he's been fighting every day in school, but this last week he fought 3 times. What are you going to do as a parent? Are you going to smack the baby? Are you going to punish the baby? What are you going to do? It's a smart parent that said, I'm going to celebrate him. And someone is like, yes. In the ABC of intentional parenting, letter C stands celebrate every victory. So if you're modifying a behavior in your child, you need to be able to keep track of the progress. If the child was fighting every day in school, which is 5 days, knowing that school days are Monday to Friday, and as you're modifying the behavior in him, he now fought 3 days in a week, you need to celebrate him. Celebrating him does not mean, Celebrating him does not mean you're endorsing the behavior. No, you're just celebrating his progress. You're appreciating him that he has moved from fighting 5 times to 3 times. All right? I have a cough. Sorry, please. And so that is how you work with modifying behavior in your children. Instead of issuing threats, why not use those behavior modification techniques, and let's see how you're able to track the progress. Remember, use positive reinforcement. Create a picture in your child's mind that the child can look forward to. praise the child, be able to separate the behavior from the child, and lastly, track progress and celebrate progress. And so if you apply those tips, you will gradually begin to help your child modify this undesirable behavior towards becoming a more balanced and wholesome child. And that is our discussion tonight on the intentional parenting chat. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have any parenting challenge that you would like us to discuss on the show, please drop me a mail to my email address and we will treat it. If you have any personalized parenting challenges and you don't want it to come live on the show, you can also drop it in my email and I will get back to you with a response. Remember, wholesome children do not just happen on us. Wholesome children are not produced by magic. Wholesome children are raised intentionally, and as an intentional parent, you can love, lead, and influence your child with ease if you understand, if you have the skills, the tools, and the requisite mindset to do that. I remain Dean and will be your host on the Intentional Parenting Chat, and it was lovely having you with us. Why not join us next time on Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. And please bring a friend along. Bring a friend along, because the more we get parents equipped with these tools and skills, the more we can transform our society, because every transformed child is a transformed society. Thank you for joining me, and see you on Wednesday. Have a lovely night rest.